Good morning and welcome to On the Spot News right here on Zimbabwe Daily. My name is Yvonne Muchaka. Let us take a look at the news making the headlines. Zesa blocks out Zesa blacks out ED speech. Police bar crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition peaceful demonstration. UN Special Rapporteur red flags PVO bill. Government says HCC frustrating Pomona investors. Mine workers seek 400 million US dollar minimum wage. Zimbabwe skilled workers on demand globally. And in sport news, Sadio Mane crowned 2022 African Footballer of the Year. And now for the news in detail. President Emerson Mnangagwa was left with egg on his face after an abrupt power outage interrupted his speech during the groundbreaking ceremony of the cyber city in Mount Hampton Wednesday. Mnangagwa, who was in the company of Vice President Constantino Chiwenga and billionaire investor Nawab Shaj Ul Malk, chairperson of the Malk International, had to wait for 3 minutes as officials made frantic efforts to restore power. Sensing the humiliation, a group belonging to the president, calling itself Men Believe ED, broke into song to save the situation. Mnangagwa could not hide his disappointment with the power utility Zesa Holdings for the power outage in the presence of visitors. The majority of Zimbabweans experience incessant power cuts on a daily basis. Wheat farmers are also currently complaining that the power cuts are seriously affecting farm operations at a time when the country is aiming for a bumper winter wheat harvest. On Tuesday, Energy and Power Development Minister Jemo Soda warned that the country might endure rolling power cuts beyond August due to depressed generation capacity. The Zimbabwe Republic Police ZRP has barred the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition from holding their demonstration slated for today. In its notification later, the Crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition chairperson Peter Mutasa said they intended to hold a peaceful demonstration against the deteriorating human rights situation and criminalization of human rights defenders. Mutasa said the coalition had taken note of a recent upsurge in incidences of political violence and the concomitant arrest and persecution of human rights defenders and their unfair treatment by law enforcement. The organization wanted to formally petition the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, Parliament, and the government of Zimbabwe through the said march. The local government ministry has accused the Harare City Council of frustrating investors regarding the 340 million United States dollar Pomona waste to energy deal. Government at HCC are at loggerheads over the costly waste management deal after Harare Mayor Jacob Mafume refused to pay 1.5 million US dollars owed to Giganix BV, a Netherlands-based company that clinched the deal. The Pomona deal will cost Harare City Council at least $22,000 per day to dump waste at Pomona dump site for the next 30 years. In a statement yesterday, local government and public works secretary Rine Chimwechuru said government was concerned that some councillors were determined to frustrate the smooth implementation of the agreement which was put in place by the same council. Churu said council officials were determined to terminate the agreement with Georginex and in the process paid the 3.5 million US dollar termination fee. After Mafume refused to pay the bill, Moyo engaged him in a meeting on Wednesday where it was resolved that government would take over the bill. Meanwhile, Harare Mayor Jacob Mafume says the city of Harare will re-evaluate some of the deals it entered into with various investors as some of them have failed to take off within the agreed timeframes. Mafume said the partnerships between the Harare City Council and investors should help fund service delivery, and those that are not in residents' best interests will either be renegotiated or terminated. The city of Harare said in a statement, um, council will reevaluate some of the multi-million dollar deals it entered into with various investors, most of which have not been performing or failed to take off at agreed timeframes. He said some of the partnerships will have to be renegotiated so that they benefit council while dormant ones may be terminated. In most of the deals, council provides land, technical, and intellectual input. Mayor Mafume said the deals have to assist in funding service delivery and improving the lives of residents. For more of this and other news, feel free to visit our website on www.zimdaily.com or follow us on our different social media handles on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also send in your queries, contributions, or suggestions via our editor on email, editor@zimdaily.com. Join us after this short break. Welcome back to On the Spot News. The United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Rights of Freedom of Peaceful Assembly and of Association, Clement Nyaletsosi Vule, has blasted different countries, including Zimbabwe's attempts to stifle operations of non-governmental organizations by overregulation. Zimbabwe is currently crafting the Private Voluntary Organization PVO Amendment Bill, which is before the National Assembly and has been criticized for clauses that are likely to ban operations of human rights organizations. In a statement, Vole said the PVO's amendment bill was being crafted under the guise of adherence to international principles such as curbing money laundering. Vole said Financial Action Task Force Recommendation 8 requires that the laws and regulations that govern non-profit organizations be reviewed so that these organizations cannot be abused to fund terrorism. Last December, 3 UN special rapporteurs petitioned the Zimbabwean government to stop enacting the law. Zimbabwe-based independent policy research organization CVO Institute recently warned that the new policy would worsen the country's policy environment and drive away potential donors. The institute said thousands of jobs would also be lost in the sector as a result of the bill. Prominent human rights lawyer Beatrice Mtetwa yesterday said the endless arrest without conviction of Zengeza West MP Job Sikala of the Citizens Coalition for Change was a clear case of political persecution. Mtetwa was responding to the police who were opposing Sikala's bail application, claiming that he had shown propensity to commit crime. But Mtetwa said Sikala had been arrested a record 67 times but has never been convicted. Sikala was arrested last month alongside Chitunguza North legislator Godfrey Sitole on charges of inciting violence following the skirmishes at the funeral of murdered opposition activist Mo Blessing Ali. Sikala faces another charge of obstructing the course of justice after he allegedly blamed ZANU-PF for Ali's murder. A report by the UK government data indicates that Zimbabwe skilled workers' visas to the UK increased for 424% between 2020 and 2022, with the health sector accounting for a larger percentage. Although the opposition Citizen Coalition for Change attributes the migration to poor salaries and political victimization, independent analysts who spoke said the increase reflected the top-class quality of Zimbabwean skilled workers. Triple C spokesperson Fadzai Mahere charged that more than 4,000 local health professionals quit their jobs in the last 3 years due to poor salaries. Mahere tweeted that 4,000 health professionals have quit in Zimbabwe in the last 3 years due to poor pay. The rate at which we are losing doctors and nurses to this avoidable brain drain is cause for great national concern. We need new leaders. However, a local healthcare practitioner, Dr. Tatenda Gojo, dismissed Mahere's sentiment, saying that the increase in Zimbabwe's skilled workers' visas to the UK reflects the quality of products that are being churned out of the training institutions. Zimbabwean mine workers are seeking a minimum wage of 400 United States dollars per month to be half paid in foreign currency and the other half in Zimbabwean dollar at the prevailing interbank foreign exchange rate. They're also seeking a cost of living adjustment of $200 to be fully paid in US dollars and the introduction of housing and transport allowance for employees who are not yet provided accommodation at the mining compound. Secretary General of Zimbabwe Diamond and Allied Mineral Workers Union Mr. Justice Chinema said the recent 108% pay rise in April 2022 had very little impact given the accelerated increase in prices of basic goods and services. Government has failed to recruit 5,000 new teachers after the budget allocation to the Ministry of Primary and Secondary Education was eroded by inflation, Parliament had this week. Thousands of teaching graduates reportedly remain jobless as the primary and secondary education ministry is failing to plug a huge staffing gap at schools across the country. The responsible minister, Evelyn Dlovu, was challenged by MPs about the absence of specialist teachers for children with learning disabilities who attend to school without getting any teaching. In response, the minister admitted the government is running short of teachers in different schools, adding that the ministry is trying its best to secure qualified teachers to augment those that are already in schools. Moreover, government says it has failed to recruit teachers required to minimize the shortfall of educators at the country's public schools because inflation has wiped out the budget for that exercise. In other news, a South African based suspected armed robber, believed to be part of a gang that robbed 7 churches, was fatally injured while 2 suspected accomplices were seriously injured after they were involved in a shootout with police at Glenview 1 shopping center in Harare on Monday night. Ephraim Douglas Dube, 54, of 164 Park Street, Belgravia, sustained injuries during the shootout. Ephraim Douglas Dube, 54, of Belgravia, Johannesburg in South Africa, and also from Berengwa, died a day after being admitted to hospital due to injuries sustained during the shootout. Suspected accomplices Emmanuel Munemo, 32, of Wedza, and Lazarus Mishi, 43, of Chitungwiza, are still admitted in hospital. They were all shot on their thighs. Another 2 suspected accomplices, John Chijanje, 47, of Glenora A, and Panashe Kaseke, 18, of Glenview 1 in Harare, were arrested and injured after surrendering, one before, uh, one before the gunfight and one after. On Wednesday, Chijanje and Kaseka appeared before Harare Regional Magistrate Mrs. Sandra Mpindu, who granted the police a warrant for further detention in police custody while investigations continue. While the injured Monemo and Mishi were remanded to August 3 for return remand on their hospital beds by the same magistrate. On a sad note, 1 person died while 8 others were critically injured when a tender bus they were traveling on veered off the road and overturned near Rusape. Police said the accident occurred around 4 p.m. yesterday at the 165-kilometer peg along the Harare-Mtare highway. The driver of a tender bus with 50 passengers on board tried to overtake another vehicle, resulting in the bus veering off the road before overturning. Now we take a look at the weather. Friday, 22 July 2022, it should be cloudy, cold, and breezy with light rain and drizzle in Lawayo Metropolitan, Matabeleland South and Southern districts of Midlands, Masvingo, and Manicaland provinces. Brief cloudy and mild conditions are expected in Matabeleland North and northern parts of Midlands. The remainder of the country, Harare Metropolitan Province and all Mashonaland provinces should experience some cloudy and cold morning conditions with isolated showers expected in the afternoon. Mild weather is anticipated in the afternoon, though cold again in the evening. Outlook weather forecast for Saturday, 23 July 22, for those who are planning on partying. It should be cloudy at first, becoming less cloudy as the day progresses countrywide. Mornings and evenings should be cold, becoming mild by the afternoons. And now we take a look at our sport news. Senegal's Sadio Mane was crowned African Footballer of the Year for the second time running at a Confederation of African Football CAF Awards ceremony in the Moroccan capital Rabat. Mane scored the winning penalty as Senegal beat Egypt in a shootout in this year's Africa Cup of Nations final to lift the trophy for the first time. The awards returned for the first time in 3 years after being suspended by the coronavirus pandemic, with Nigeria's Asiati Oshoala also retaining the award she won in 2019. And sports news brings us to the end of our bulletin. We take a look at the headlines once again. Zesa blacks out ED speech. Police bar crisis in Zimbabwe Coalition peaceful demonstration. UN Special Rapporteur red flags PVO bill. Government says HCC frustrating Pomona investors. Mine workers seek $400 minimum wage, and Zimbabwe skilled workers on demand globally. Sport news: Sadio Mane crowned 2022 African Footballer of the Year. And that brings us to the end of our bulletin. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's bye bye for now.